Taking a peek at the infotainment system inside of the Honda Accord. The Accord does technically have two different screens that are available. So this is the larger 12.3 inch. There's a smaller one that's available as well in some of the lower trims, but you're going to have some similar functionality with one big difference, that this one has Google built in. But I'm going to walk you through everything that you need to know about the system. So along the outside, you've got a series of different buttons. So you've got a few along the top that are always locked into place. But if you push and hold, that's going to essentially loosen them up, and you've got the flexibility to be able to customize some of them. So if you push and hold, you can adjust the bottom three. So you can have any of these different icons along the bottom three. So if you wanted to have the Apple CarPlay down there, you'd have the flexibility to do it. You could edit your home icons there as well. So don't show that. So if you wanted to change the layout, it's the same idea. You can just button push and hold in order to adjust it, in order to make it your own. If we hop back, that's going to adjust that screen, and then we've adjusted the one on the left side. So you do have the flexibility of adjusting the screen out a little bit to customize it and make it your own. You've got this tray along the right-hand side that's always going to be stuck in place there as well. This is the hybrid model of the Accord, which is why we've got that power flow. But if you didn't have the hybrid, everything else would look exactly the same. You've got a home button, basic back button. So if you're on any of these screens, you can hit back or hit home if you'd like to. But let's dive in and I'll show you all of the other features. So inside of this tray, along the top, you can also hit the user in order to change user profiles. And one of the big benefits there is that if there are multiple people driving the vehicle, you can easily add in an additional profile. So if you wanted to remember all of your presets, your phone that was connected, if you've got maps going and things like that, you'd have the flexibility to be able to do it. You can also adjust things out, connect if you'd like to. Straightforward. But it is beneficial having multiple profiles, especially if there are multiple people driving the car. But if it's just you, you can still set it up if you'd like to, and then you can also secure it, which I'll show you in a second. The vehicle does have Google Maps built in, which is useful. You can still hook up over iPhone or Android devices if you want to. You use Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze through iPhones, and then Google Maps and Waze through Android, which I'll touch on. But having Google Maps built in is incredibly useful. And you can easily search for different point of interest icons if you wanted to. So let's go for Tim Hortons, see what's available there. Might notice sometimes, depending on your connection level, it might take a little bit in order to load up, but you can see we've got different options there. So if let's go ahead and select one that's a bit further away. There you go. So I'm offline as of right now, but you can start, you can add a stop, or you could add in an additional route option. So if you wanted to avoid different things on the route, like highways, toll roads, ferries, things like that, you'd have that flexibility. If there was more than one route to get there, it would also show you, but it's just telling us this is just going to be the best available route. You can also choose another destination. So let's say if you wanted to maybe fill up on gas before you went to Tim Hortons, you'd have that flexibility. There we go. So we're just going to select a random one along the way. If your phone was connected, the phone's there, so you'd be able to call as well if you'd like. We're just going to hit add stop, and now there are two different routes that we could go. So we could take route 1 or route 2 if we'd like to. And then you can also do a button push there on the hamburger icon in order to adjust the route. So if you wanted to stop at the gas station first before you went to Tim Hortons, you'd have that flexibility. You can hit X along the side there if you wanted to cancel out one of these individual options. And then you just hit done. You can start or just edit. And when you've started, you can see there we've got the route going. And one really cool thing is that if you've got an active route going, inside of the cluster screen, you'd also have a little sub-screen that you could select. So using the rocker switch there, you'd be able to move down to different options, so range and fuel, speed, time, but there's also navigation. So you'd have mapping cluster capability there as well. So I personally find that's useful, and it is full map and cluster there. Like, it doesn't stretch across, but that still is useful. And then if you had it enabled, you'd also be able to see your turn-by-turn directions inside of the head-up display. From there, you can hit this icon again if you wanted to change your route options. You could search for another option. You could exit out in order to remove just the next stop, or fully exit navigation instead. There we go. And from here, you've got a few other options. So the screen is full pinch to zoom capabilities. You've also got the flexibility of changing the heading this way if you'd like. You could mute out notifications. You could look at different perspectives and options there. You can hit the little gear icon if you'd prefer the satellite mode. that's available. You've got 3D buildings available as an option, and then avoiding different things as well. So it is Google Maps. And then one cool thing is that you can also hit this little icon to sign into Google. So if you tend to use Google Maps on your phone instead, you could log in, and then you'd have the flexibility of seeing all of the addresses that you've searched for on your phone showing up right inside of the screen too. So if you've pre-planned routes and things like that, that would show up. You can hit the back button to get back home here. And next step is going to be adding in a phone. And we're going to start off on the iPhone side of things. So connect a new device. You're going to hop into your phone's Bluetooth, and we're going to search for devices. And there we go. We've got Honda Accord popping up. So we're going to connect there. There we go. And pin numbers match up. So we're going to pair. Do you want to allow contacts and favorites to sync up? This is not my car, so I'm going to say no to that one. And then from there, you can see we are fully connected. So if we were, oh, hold on, connecting. There we go. Would you like to enable CarPlay? So if you didn't want to use CarPlay, you could just hit no there, and then you can set as a priority. So if there's multiple phones connected, it's who's it going to try to connect to first. But you've got full wireless CarPlay capabilities inside of the ride. It is also backwards compatible. So if you wanted to use a USB-C, you've got the flexibility to do it as well. But if you're trying to hook up over USB and it's not working, or you're running into other connectivity issues, check down in the description of this video for a little walkthrough. But one with the cable is that you might be using strictly a charge cable, because there's charge cables and then charge and data transfer cables. So that would be the first thing. But like I said, check down in the description for a fuller walkthrough, and let's enable Apple CarPlay. And from here, we're just waiting a second for, there we go, this message to pop up on the phone. Do you want to use CarPlay with the Accord? Yes, we want to do that. And look at that. A few seconds in, and we are fully connected. And you can see there, no pinch to zoom capabilities though. That's the downside of CarPlay, but you've got CarPlay connected. You can hit this button if you wanted to do a little split screen instead. So if you had a preference to have the options along the side there, if you wanted to listen to radio on the Accord while you're running through CarPlay maps, you could, or just go full screen instead. You've got your current time, connection level, which map was open last, which audio application was open last, which miscellaneous application was open last. There's your battery level, as well as your little home icon. So you can hit the home icon there. You can swipe across as well, so it's fairly responsive inside of the screen here. You can hit the little icon view or the home view to jump one page or the other. You've got your phone, there's Apple Maps that's available, Google Maps, and Waze. My personal favorite is using Waze. I know that it's going to come down to a matter of preference, but you've got notifications in case there are police that are there. And then you've got live traffic and things like that. People giving you a heads up if there are cops pulling people over. You can hit the little plus icon as well if you notice police pulling people over, if there's a crash, hazards, things on the road, whatever the case may be. So I'm just a bigger fan of using Waze, but that's a matter of preference. You've got a boatload of different apps that are available. So podcasts, if you're a fan of listening that way. You've got, let's see, Hoopla's a library app, Live One's a radio app. Like there are a ton of different apps that are available. But one thing to point out is that the screen for Apple CarPlay does not support video playback. So there are things like YouTube Music and VLC available, but you don't have the flexibility of actually watching video through Apple CarPlay yet. In your settings, you've got driver focus. You can adjust the appearance. You can change out the wallpaper if you want to customize it and make it your own. And there are some additional settings there. And then on the steering wheel, there's also a voice command prompt. So along the left-hand side of the steering wheel, if you do a long push and hold, that's going to activate your Siri assistant. So a short button push is going to activate the built-in assistant for the vehicle, but a long button push, whether you're hooked up over CarPlay or just over Bluetooth, is going to launch into your phone assistant instead. And then on the phone, you've also got the flexibility of being able to customize the screen. So if you go into your settings and then general, you can go into CarPlay, find the vehicle, you can turn it off, you can customize it or forget it. You can customize here, and anything with a minus next to it, you can remove, but you can also do a push and hold if you wanted to adjust them. So if you wanted to have Waze at the very top, you'd have the flexibility to do it. If you wanted to have your podcast up there too, you could do it. Now, like I said, anything with a minus next to it, you can remove it from the screen. It saves it along the bottom of the phone though, so you could add them back in if you really wanted to. But if you've played around with this too much and you don't like what you've done, just hit reset, and that's just going to bring you back to the default layout instead. The home screen here is locked into place, so there's no way that you can customize the Apple CarPlay home screen, unfortunately. It is what it is, but it's a useful system. From here, you can hop back home to get out of CarPlay if you'd like to, I've set this up for your hot button push along the very bottom. You could just do a push and hold again if you wanted to adjust out, but you can hop into CarPlay this way. That launches you back in. If you go into your general settings, you've got a bunch of different options here, but we're looking for connections. And then you've got manage connected devices. So we've got the iPhone that's currently connected over CarPlay. You could hit the Bluetooth button there, and what it's doing, it's disconnecting CarPlay and hooking up over Bluetooth. So Apple CarPlay actually does work over Wi-Fi versus your Bluetooth for phone calls and things like that. And we're just going to continue there. That's fine. And we're now connected over Bluetooth. And that's how you set up Apple devices inside of the Honda Accord. Setting up an Android device is the exact same process. So if you weren't on the screen, you were back home. Again, you're going to your general settings, connections, manage devices, and then you can connect a device there. So you've got your Bluetooth connections. You're going to search for a device, and then on your phone, you're looking for, oh, there we go. Look at that. Nice and quick. S9 Plus has shown up. There we go. And PIN numbers match up, so we're going to hit OK there. Do you want to allow access to contacts and messages? This is not my car, so again, I'm saying no to that one. And would you like to enable Android Auto? Same idea. Do you want to set it as the priority? So if there are two phones connected, who's it going to connect to first? And let's enable. And it'll take a few seconds there. And look at this. We are fully connected over Android Auto. So as you can see there, we are kind of a little split screen inside of Android Auto, but this is Google Maps. Along the very bottom, you've got your icon there to jump to this little icon view, back to your little split view. There's also going to be your Google Assistant that way for your phone, because there's the screen voice assistant, but there's also the voice assistant for your phone. Same idea, you can do a long button push and hold in order to activate your phone assistant if you'd like to. You could make Google Maps full screen this way, and that's just by hitting that little map icon, or you can go back to that little split screen view instead. I'm personally a big fan of this way, but you've got full pinch to zoom capabilities this way. You can search for addresses. You can hop in here in order to show 3D, route options, so avoiding highways, toll roads, ferries, and things like that. Then you hit this button along the bottom, brings you back to the screen. You've got some basic applications along the bottom, along with your current connection level and your battery as well. Now, if you have Waze installed on your phone, like I've got here, but it's not showing up, check down in the description of this video, because I've put together a little walkthrough explaining how you can add Waze to Android devices if it's not working for you. Then, from here, on your phone, if you search for Android Auto in your Android Auto settings, you're going to click through there, and that gives you a bunch of different options. But we're looking for Customize Launcher. And then if you do a button push and hold, you'd be able to adjust the order, but it's not dynamic the same way it was on the iPhone side. So in order for these changes to come into effect, all you have to do, hop home, go to your settings, connections, devices. You're going to disconnect from Android Auto. You're going to reconnect to Android Auto. And in a few seconds, we are fully connected again with the changes that we've made now coming into effect. So it's not dynamic, but you still have that flexibility. And then you could hit home there. And then as I showed you earlier, you've got the flexibility to adjust these out. So if you're using Android Auto instead of CarPlay, you can have your quick launch tray showing that instead. If you go into your general settings, back into your connections and your connected devices, you could hook up this way instead. So we're disconnecting from Android Auto, connecting over Bluetooth. So you can essentially be connected one way or the other. Hitting options there gives you a boatload of other options, but that's how you set up Android devices and Apple devices inside of the Honda Accord. If you hit options from here, you can toggle Bluetooth off. So if you just don't want to use it at all, you can adjust priority devices if there are different devices connected, and you can change your vehicle name. So the default is Honda Accord, but if you want it to be Bob's Ride, Sally's Ride, whatever the case may be, you've got the flexibility of being able to change out your vehicle name there. And then you can also change out your size. Do you want it to be normal versus wide as your default connection? So that little split screen that you saw earlier. But that's hooking up a phone. It's straightforward doing it. You could connect to the phone there. If you wanted to try to reconnect over Bluetooth or Apple CarPlay, you can disconnect it or you can delete them. So if you're not a fan of having your device connected, or in this case, it's a pressed car, so just deleting the devices here, you can see a few seconds in and we are fully disconnected and deleted. You can see up to 6 devices are available to add into this vehicle as well. But that's how you hook up a phone inside of the vehicle. You've got FM available as a default here as well. You can hit this icon in order to get to all of your available audio sources. So AM, FM. If you had a USB stick with MP3s hooked up, that would show up. If you had a Bluetooth device connected, whether that's a phone or an iPod, whatever the case may be, you can select all of your different audio sources. You could tune this way if you'd like to, and then just enter through in order to be able to tune to a station. In order to save a preset, all you're going to do is push and hold. So I've got a few stations saved in. So let's tune to another random station here. And then you're just going to push and hold, and that saves it in. You'd also have the flexibility of being able to overwrite stations. So let's say if you didn't want that station, you could just tune to whatever station that you wanted. And you just push and hold. And that's going to give you the option for either removing or replacing. So let's replace. And there we go. We've now replaced the station. You could then do a push and hold there again if you wanted to hold and drag. So if you wanted to customize the layout of all of the buttons here, or all of your presets, I should say, you've got the flexibility to be able to do it. And then just hitting either home or back. Actually, back would have been smarter there, but that pulls you out of the screen. You can seek this way. You can scan to available stations, stop at any point in time. And if you're new to an area, you just hit station list, and that gives you all of the available stations. And you'll notice here, some of them have the HD button next to it. And that just means that it's broadcast digitally. So it just opens you up to more options. You can refresh if you're new to an area and you're not sure what you can listen to. So you've got options. You can hit the voice command prompt if you wanted to be able to search for stations this way. And then you can also jump between your presets using this option here. So you just do a button push and hold there in order to do it. And then if you do a longer push and hold, that's going to act more as like a seek button instead. So it like seeks you forward if you wanted to. So you've got that option going this way, but voice command prompt is probably the easiest way for you to go. And then it also shows you inside of your cluster screen what's going on as you adjust the stations. AM is going to be the same way. So if you hop into AM, you can see all of your AM stations available. So everything is broken up individually for your AM, FM, whatever the case may be. If you hit menu along the top, that brings you to a series of other options. So things like your sound settings, adjusting your treble, mid-range, and bass. So as of right now, you can see it's all kind of zeroed out. I find that in this car, treble down a couple, mid-range up 1, bass cranked like 2 or 3 points, tends to give pretty good audio, in my opinion. But what I'd recommend is listen to one of your favorite songs, and while you're listening, adjust these in order to have it so that it's perfect for you. You can adjust your center point. You've got a balance and fade. So do you want it focused on strictly the driver, the front seats, the rear seats, or you could adjust it out this way instead. Reset to default is going to bring it back into the middle. So it's kind of nice you've got that flexibility. And then speed compensated volume, as you're going faster or slower, it can automatically adjust the sound for you. HD radio if it's available, artwork if that's available. So if the radio station has artwork available, that will show up, as well as the basic information here. And that's using the radio. You've got access to the Play Store, so you have to sign in order to do it. You do need an active data connection or be hooked up over Wi-Fi at home in order to see options here, but it's going to give you the flexibility of downloading additional apps right to the vehicle. You've got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. Since this is the hybrid, you can see the power flow. So you can see your current drive, what range you're getting total. This is going to be your battery level. So it's a pretty small battery, but it charges up quickly and it gives you really good range, especially if you're not gunning it as you drive. But this is kind of a neat screen to see as you're driving because you can see which wheel is getting which amount of power and how the power transfer is going on. You've got Alexa built in. You do have to sign into your Alexa account for it to work. You've got your Google Assistant, so you can set it up this way, that way, hit the steering wheel button instead. There are a series of vehicle settings here as well. Driver assistance, forward collision warning. If there's going to be a potential collision, you could get, there you go, you just heard the engine turn on there, but you could get notifications, head-up warning. So if there's a potential collision, it's going to give you a heads up inside of the cluster screen or the head-up display of a potential collision. Let's see here. What else is exciting? Lane keeping assist. Blind spot system, I would say that's a useful one. And the blind spot system, what that's going to do is it's going to highlight along the side view mirrors. So there's a little icon there that's going to let you know if somebody's entered the blind spot on either side. So you can get an audible alert, visual alert. So it's a matter of preference. Audible, just a little chime inside the vehicle. Traffic sign recognition, do you want that going? Yay, nay, nothing exciting there. Speed limit warning. Do you want to get a warning, yay or nay? Matter of preference, if you like being safe as a driver, you can adjust that one. The attention monitor, if you start to veer over into another lane too many times without signaling, eventually it's going to tell you that you should probably take a break, but you can get a tactile feel, so a little steering wheel shake, or nothing happens. So it's going to be a matter of preference. So with tactile and audible, start to veer over too many times, it'll tell you you should probably take a break, shake the steering wheel for you to make sure that you're paying attention. And down, rear sensing setting, nothing exciting there. Driving position setup for your memory, and that's going to be for your driver's seat memory to the key fob. Seat position, entry, exit. So that's pretty useful because you've got the flexibility of adjusting your driver's seat along the side here. Once you have it set up, you'll be able to then hit set and then either 1 or 2 for it to remember your own personal profile. So when you've got the easy exit seats, it's going to, like I said, lower the seat, back it up, and then when you get inside, it's going to push forward, but then you can adjust the seat out however you'd like to along the side for your memory, or just manually along the bottom instead. Moving back, you've got basic info for lighting. Auto high beams are an interesting one. So with this one enabled, when you're in the auto light mode, what the vehicle is going to do, if it recognizes the high beams are needed, it's going to turn them on automatically. If somebody's oncoming, it's going to turn them off before bringing them right back on again. But if you want to permanently lock your high beams out, you've got a little selector switch here so you can move between options. You're just going to go to your headlamp mode along the top. You can then push away to lock your high beams out, pull towards you in order to turn them off. But you can always flash your high beams out regardless of the mode that you're in. So you can't permanently lock your high beams out there. Yeah, you can see there, they're not showing up. But when you're in the headlamp mode, push away to turn them on, pull towards you in order to turn them off. But the auto high beam mode is actually pretty neat. Interior dimming, when you go to lock the vehicle, how long do the lamps stay on for inside? Headlamp timer, when you go to lock the vehicle, how long do the headlamps stay on for? And climate control setup, nothing exciting there. Let's see, head-up display, if you've got it available. So the head-up display is subtle, you can see it there. Really nice. But you've got the flexibility through the infotainment system to be able to adjust a few things out inside of the infotainment. But inside of the cluster screen, if you navigate through to your head-up display position, so we're going to drop down to, let's go up. There we go, head-up display settings. So you can go there if you wanted to adjust the content, so what's showing up there, driver assistance settings, speedometer, navigation, things like that. And as you adjust, you can see different things showing up inside of the head-up display. So it's essentially what's showing up there instead. You can adjust the brightness of the screen. I normally honestly recommend going the maximum brightness. You can adjust the height as well. So if you want it higher or lower, just based off of your driving position. And then you can also adjust the rotation as well. So again, if you're sitting kind of one-sided or the other, you can adjust it out if you'd like to. There's key access options. So when you go to unlock the vehicle using the key fob, is it just the driver's door that becomes unlocked, or is it all doors? So that one's going to be a matter of preference for safety. You could probably just do driver. When you go to unlock the vehicle, do you get a flash? Do you get a beep? Or do you want to be able to remote start using the key fob, yay or nay? And then there are also some kind of neat tricks that you can do with the fob as well. So let's hop outside and I'll show you some neat ones. And in order to remote start, just make sure you're locked. Push and hold that circle button within 10 seconds. And you can see there, so lights coming on. It's subtle because this is the hybrid version of the ride. To cancel the remote start, just push and hold that circle button and remote start's canceled. You can get into the trunk by pushing and holding the trunk release button there. Up along the top, there's also a button that you can push in order to get into the trunk as well. When the car is locked, the fuel door is also locked, so you just have to unlock in order to gain access. And then there's a neat key fob trick that you can do. So if you push and hold the unlock button twice, you're going to go 1, 2, and hold. Watch this. You can release the unlock button deposit part way, and then push and hold the unlock button. You have to keep on holding. But not only does it open up all 4 windows, but it also opens up the sunroof. So that's really cool. I love the remote start from the fob. It's great, but that window trick, also really cool. Door setup. So you've got your door lock. When do you want it to unlock or lock? When you shift into park, etc. Do you want to have walkaway lock? So that one, you will definitely want to make sure that that's enabled. And that's the one where if you have forgotten to lock the vehicle, you walk away. it's automatically going to lock the doors for you. And then that's your keyless remote window control. So that's the one where you're hitting the unlock button in order to roll the windows down. You can adjust some individual settings. So how do you want everything set up? So you've got your normal versus economy mode versus sport mode. You do have your little selector switch down the middle here in order to adjust between all of your different drive modes. And you can see there, so it adjusts not only what's going inside of the infotainment system, but also what's going on inside of the cluster screen. So you've got your individual mode here, and that individual mode is what we're setting up. So in your individual settings, it's what do you want it to look like? So you've got the flexibility of customizing this out a little bit. I like that it does change up the gauge cluster a little bit as well. And basic maintenance information, you can see your oil life. You can reset different items. So if you're changing oil yourself, you'd be able to reset. It's actually kind of neat. As you rotate the screen, you can see different options that you're looking at. And back brings you into a series of general settings. So if we look at some system options, you can adjust the date and time. So as of right now, we just went through daylight savings time, but you can have it automatically update for you, or you can manually adjust. So if you wanted to manually set the date and time, you'd have the flexibility to do it. Just recommend keeping it in auto. Time zone is a useful one because you've got the flexibility of being able to adjust out to any time zone and lock it in. So if you straddle a time zone and it's constantly flipping you from one to the other, you could permanently lock it into any mode you'd like. Or if that's not a concern, just go auto mode instead. Date format. So auto daylight savings time is the same idea. Because we're in the auto mode, it's going to automatically adjust it there. You can adjust the date format and your time format. So do you want the military time instead? So 12 versus 24-hour mode. And you've also got the option of adjusting your languages. So do you want English, Spanish, or French? You can do it strictly for the cluster screen or for the infotainment. So if you wanted to have, I should probably not have done that. There we go. So if you wanted to adjust this out, you'd have the flexibility to be able to do it. And then the sensitivity, do you want a high or low sensitivity for the touch screen itself? And let's see here. Is that it for, that's it for system info. That's good. Okay. Next up, connections, which we've already seen. Basic privacy information. So do you want to share information with Honda? Matter of preference. You've got your microphone available there as well. Do you want to use the mic? Yeah, you're nothing exciting there. Do you want to share your location? Different apps, you can set it up. So if you don't want apps accessing your information, app permissions, system-wide info, like some of these things, you can toggle all of the things off. Like, do you want to control your microphone, your location, nearby devices, things like that. There is an ads manager here. I personally have never seen any ads inside of any infotainment system. It's concerning that it's there, but it's because it's got Google built in. So it's based off of a Google operating system, which is why it's showing. You can adjust the display. So if you wanted to adjust the brightness of the display, you could do it. Adjust the contrast, the black levels. You could toggle the display off, button press to turn it back on again. You can adjust some sound settings, which we've already seen. So adjusting the treble, mid-range, and bass. You can adjust your sound volumes individually. So your system sounds, your voice recognition, your phone calls, and things like that. I love that there's the flexibility of adjusting these out. So if you don't want to get any notification for your navigation, but you want your other volumes adjusted, you've got that flexibility. You can adjust your camera here too. So do you want to have your camera guidelines, fixed versus dynamic? So if we go into reverse here, you've got your guidelines there. So as you rotate the wheel, we've got both of them showing up. So you've got fixed in place when you're just backing up, but dynamic as you go to adjust the steering wheel. And then in your camera, you've got a few different field of views on top of that. Button push here in order to adjust out your climate set or your brightness settings there too. But you can adjust these things out if you don't want them showing up. Cross traffic monitor. If you're in reverse and you're going to back up, if somebody's coming perpendicular, so from the left or the right side, it can warn you of a potential collision. Voice control is also there. So as a default, it's going to be your Google Assistant, but you can have nothing. You can have Alexa, Google, whatever the case may be. So with nothing, you hit the voice assistant button, nothing shows up. And then Google versus Alexa is available. As I mentioned with Alexa, you do have to be connected. And then listen for Hey Siri. So if you've got your phone connected, so your iPhone specifically, it can listen for Hey Siri there. And then you've got your Google Assistant, whether or not that one's enabled, disabled, etc. Oh, there you go. There's your assistant. From here, you've got security. And profile lock is a cool one. So you can adjust it by a PIN or a password. So if you've got all of your addresses that have been saved, if you've got all your presets saved, your phones and things like that, you could lock out your individual profile so people can't look through all of your options. I personally recommend turning on some sort of a PIN so that when you jump in, people just can't look through all of your stuff. That's a matter of preference. Google, nothing exciting there. Password info, you can send feedback to Google. And then there's some advanced settings, specifically for network. Nothing exciting. Notifications. Do you want to get notifications? Yay, nay. Profile information. Like, this is all some advanced things that honestly, I would say 99% of people are not going to have to worry about. If you wanted to have text from your screen, if you wanted to use screenshots, look at system information for your languages. So this is just another way to adjust things out. If you wanted to tweak out your language for different options, you've got that flexibility. This is an Android device, so you could see which Android version you're currently on. And you can reset things. So if you wanted to reset app preferences, you'd have that flexibility. And back from there, nothing exciting. And then you've got profile settings. So if you've got profiles that have been connected, you can adjust these out. You can adjust your driving position, seating, lock it out to your individual profile. Bluetooth audio. So if you had an audio device set up for Bluetooth, you could adjust there. You can see your trip counters too. So you've got your trip A versus trip B counter versus current. So current is from the last time you started the vehicle up. So you've got your current range versus your fuel economy. You can see your trip 1 versus trip 2 counter. Straightforward. You can hit the menu button there if you wanted to reset. So you could delete all of your trip history, reset trip A or trip B instead. You can see all of your different trip information there. You would also be able to see it inside of the cluster screen too. So as you adjust through, you could go, actually, let's go back for a second and moving down. There we go. In your power flow, you've got range and fuel. So you've got the flexibility of seeing your trip counter there, and then you can push in as well. So push in that dial if you wanted to change between trip A versus trip B. But if you want a full walkthrough on the steering wheel buttons, the cluster screen, things like that, you'll find that down in the description of this video. And back, if you had a USB stick connected, that would show up. AM's available, system updates if you wanted to check to see if any updates were available. Wi-Fi hotspot, you do need a data-only plan, but you'd be able to use the vehicle as a hotspot. You can view your clock in a different way as well. Adjust your date and time. You can adjust the clock face if you wanted something different. You could add more in if they were available. Let's see, Honda Link, nothing exciting there. A digital compass, so if you wanted to see which way you're going. Display mode, so you could adjust it out this way there. So you're essentially just adjusting the brightness of the screen. You can see all apps that are available inside of the vehicle, and then SMS as well. So a lot of info there. As I mentioned, you've got the flexibility of adjusting. You've got the volume rocker there as well. So you could push in to turn your audio off. You could adjust your volume this way. And then there are a few switches that are on the steering wheel. So you could adjust your volume this way. You could change out songs, radio stations, presets. Only other thing I'm going to point out is that if the screen is ever giving you problems, like it's not connecting to Google Maps properly, it's not connecting to your phone properly, it's giving you issues, you could do a reboot. In order to reboot the screen inside of Honda vehicles, if you do a push and hold on the home icon, about 5 to 10 seconds, you'll eventually come up to this screen. So you could cancel this out, you could reboot, or you could start it in safe mode. So safe mode is exactly that. It disables all additional applications that you've installed. So if there's an app that's giving you problems, you could delete it, but you could just do a general reboot there. And instead of deleting all of the data by doing a full reset, it's just going to do a soft reboot after about 10 seconds or so. It's going to launch the screen again, and that should fix any issues that you might be getting. There we go. So we run through that process. So rather than, like I said, doing a factory reset, you go that route, and that'll solve the majority of issues that you might be running into. But I know that is a lot of information, but that's everything that you need to know about the infotainment system inside of the Honda Accord.